This is She Creates Business, a podcast for wedding pros. Your host, Kinsey Roberts, interviews incredible women in the wedding industry who are making their mark and creating success on their terms. Join the conversation.
Well, hey there and happy Thursday. Welcome to episode 62 of She Creates Business, a podcast for wedding pros. This is your host, Kinsey Roberts, and today I am pleased to welcome Eliana Baucicault of ellyB events to the show. We talk about a wide variety of topics, but mostly we focus on the recent publishing of her book, Be Inspired. If you don't know Eliana is the owner and founder of ellyB Events, which is a premier wedding and event planner business in Atlanta, Georgia. And her book, Be Inspired, was recently released, and it's one of the first coffee table inspiration books to feature a woman of color on the cover. And we talk about that and how that felt for Eliana to publish it, why she did it, what she wanted to achieve by doing that, and really what her hope is for brides who pick up the book. And I really want to read this kind of blurb about the book really quickly because it's so powerful, and I think you'll be really interested in it. And so here we go. Eliana Baucicault of ellyB Events, a premier wedding and event planner located in Atlanta, Georgia, recently released her signature style wedding design lookbook, Be Inspired. Be Inspired is the first wedding lookbook of its kind that features a wide array of styles with something to inspire every bride. Be Inspired is also making history as one of the first bridal lookbooks to feature not only a black bride on the cover, but in each of the stunning editorial shoots and weddings displayed within its pages. And if you haven't seen the book, it is absolutely stunning. The editorial shoots that Eliana did for this book are just magnificent. So let's get to the show. Eliana has years and years of experience, so she has lots to teach us today. Let's go to the show. Eliana Baucicault, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Oh my gosh, it's my pleasure. I am so thrilled so Kelly Dobb, who is a past guest of the show, listeners, you'll know this, she introduced me to Eliana, and I could not be more thrilled to have her on. Ellie, I gave everybody your kind of professional bio there at the top of the show, but please, I would love in your own words to tell us who you are and how you're currently serving the wedding industry.
Yeah, thank you.
My pleasure.
So I am a wedding and party planner is what I love to call myself. I've been in the industry going on 10 years. This year will be our 10-year anniversary. No parties. I'm over parties. So we're definitely not celebrating the 10-year. Might just have a good dinner. And I have been doing this ever since I started a little bit before my own wedding and have been servicing the wedding and event industry ever since then. In conjunction with that, we'd also own a venue space. There's so many facets of the business. Also do group coaching for wedding planners, as well as the new book. So Be Inspired. So now I'm a new author. I always forget that part and haven't updated my signature yet. But that is all that we do in the industry. We've been in the industry head first. I've been doing this full time maybe for the last 8 years. So like I like to say, we sleep, eat, and breathe this industry.
Oh my gosh, I can tell. Honestly, I was thinking when I was like reading your bio and doing like my pre-show interview or my pre-show research, I was like, we could have an interview just based on her history.
Yeah, I started out in project management for law firms, so I always joke around that my brides are like my lawyers. No time for fluff. They just want to get the work done, and it's all about the end result. So I'm grateful for that.
I love that. And so I don't know if I knew that you were a venue owner. I'm interested in that personally because so am I. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, it's called the B Loft. So everything is kind of derivative off my last name, the letter B, because it's an actual word. So the B Loft is kind of an intimate event space. I say intimate, but it's about 4,400 square feet. And I came up with the idea when I was in search of office space and I didn't want to pay for it. So I said, I wanted to be in the key parts of town and in the prominent areas in Atlanta. And I started out small. So I started out maybe about 2,400 square feet. And 3 years later, we almost doubled the size. Wow. So it's kind of a BYOB venue. Everyone's able to kind of bring in their own catering and drinks and vendors. We hardly ever do any planning there. And I'm grateful for that because it has served as a platform for many either newer event planners or consistent social event planners to have several events in our space.
Oh, excellent. Okay. So because if you were really planning there, maybe they would feel like, oh, shoot, we can't come here and have a different planner. Is that kind of the thought?
Exactly.
That's really awesome. Oh, excellent.
So it's really important to me for me to be hands off. And a lot of people don't even, as yourself, don't know about the two different brands because I do keep them completely separate besides the coincidence in the naming convention. And the locals obviously know it's my company, and we've been great for the last almost 5 years now.
Oh, that's wonderful. And so can you I would love to, and today, everybody listening, you know that we're going to get into the Be Inspired book, but I have so many questions for Eliana. So can you kind of touch on your mentorship?
Yeah, of course. So I just launched this year, just to launch in January. It's a group coach mentoring service with two different tracks. Okay. So it's definitely, although you can join as a wedding planner, you're just starting in the business and may not even have a business name, it's really important too for that person that may have been in business 6-7 years to kind of go through these different tracks to kind of either look at things differently, because as we know, you can be in business forever and doesn't mean you have consistent business or you've been able to create your signature style. So we kind of take it step by step. I'm really kind of a noble type of person when I'm mentoring and I'm speaking. So it's literally like taking everything that everyone has going on and saying, okay, you're missing this or you're missing that, or you have this, let's talk through your consultation, why you may not be closing some deals. How can you approach it differently? Are you giving too much information or too little? So it's only about 20, we have about 20 students in each track on purpose, because literally we give homework. I'm the one that's personally going through it every single week. So it's a lot of kind of hands-on and access to me. So that makes it a little bit different than a couple of programs that's out there. Yes,
that's a lot of one-on-one time with you. That's wonderful for your students.
Yeah, they enjoy it. And, again, I love that there's people in my area here in Atlanta, and it doesn't bother me because, as I tell everyone, when it comes to wedding planners, we're all different bank tellers. You can have 3 banks on one block. That doesn't mean that one bank has less money than the other. So there's multiple opportunities out there.
Oh, good. I love that analogy. I'm going to start using that.
I think once you break it down that way, they're like, oh, you're right. Like you can have McDonald's, Wendy's, and Burger King on the same block. It doesn't go out of business. Everyone has their different taste and flavor. So
yes. And I never think twice. I'm like, oh yeah, of course there's 3, Wendy's, Burger King, and McDonald's.
Exactly.
Brilliant. Okay. Let's switch gears and talk about your brand new book, Be Inspired. It is, it's everything. It's so gorgeous. First of all, if you haven't seen it, I'm going to link it up in the show notes. Please, if you are not driving, don't do this if you're driving, tap your podcast player and click on it. You're going to die over the content of this book. But let's really start at the beginning. I would love for you to take us from like the ideation stage to when you first started, like, okay, this is a dream. Tell me about that. Take us through that process.
Yeah, definitely. It's a crazy dream that I woke up in January of 2016 and I said, I'm going to do a book. And it really started where it ended up kind of is 2 different places. So it started because one of my photographer friends, we did tons of weddings together, and she started to lay out an album, as our photographers want to give their wedding planners an album so that they could showcase in their office. And I quickly saw this body of work of our past events. It was like, this is amazing. Like, this is the most amazing coffee table book ever. Throughout that process and just seeing it, so I kind of just walked away from it. And then I started seeing a lot of reports in our industry where magazines were excited to finally put a woman of color on the cover of their magazines, or finally putting them in ads, or, having fellow wedding planners or designers being upset because they felt like their work wouldn't be showcased because they were on, because there was a woman of color in the in the portfolio. And I said, this is 2016. This is the saddest thing I've ever heard. Not that I've ever experienced racial tension that I know of, but I didn't want to celebrate the fact that in 2016 it was okay to admit that you're just now doing something that should have been done a long time ago. So I instantly felt, after seeing the reports consistently, and from some major publications, I instantly felt that I know the eye buys, and the eye buys what they see. So I wanted a woman of color. The first thing you do as a bride or someone that knows that you're getting married is that you run to that bookstore and you're buying one of those planner books. That's the first thing. Right. So everyone always walks into my office and they're holding that planner book tight. So that means that they're still visiting these bookstores and still kind of experiencing that moment as a bride, and I wanted a bride to go into a bookstore and see her face on the cover of a coffee table book and understand that her wedding day and everything that they've done and worked so hard for to pay for and to visualize, and from they've looked at from little girl, they can see it materialize before their big day even happens. So that's why it's a compilation of editorial shoots all over. I was very purposeful to go to different locations. So that's why I didn't keep it in Atlanta. Of course, I went to New York because that's where I'm from. But, there's destination weddings, there's farm weddings and southern weddings, and just kind of just putting out that body of work in the editorial shoots. And then in the real wedding section, I wanted to celebrate my clients. And I was very intentional. I'm not just putting out a book of pretty pictures and pretty, tables and details and stuff like that. You can get that all over Instagram, but I wanted to celebrate each couple. So that's why it was important for me to put their name and their face in each one of the features.
Mm-hmm. So tell me, when you were gathering all of the content for the book, and I know that your photographer friend that you had worked with had a lot of it, did you take I guess your past weddings, everything you'd already done, or it does sound like you went to new places and did those editorial photo shoots. Is that right?
Correct. So the book is 50-50. There are 9 editorial shoots, all different kind of, I don't say themes because I don't truly do themes, but all different color schemes and vibes, if per se. And then the other half of the book, we have about 66 real weddings in the latter part of the book.
Okay. And is Be Inspired traditionally or self-published?
Self-published.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Yes, girl. Okay. Tell me everything. Yeah, literally.
That was a good one. And I'm good friends with Candace, and I heard her podcast. So shout out to Candace. So I remember kind of when I was in Barbados and I was telling her about it, and she's like, girl, contact my publisher. And there's no real reason why I didn't go through traditional publishing. I'm pretty sure after a book proposal and the concept, we would have been able to pick it up, get it picked up. But my big thing is that I knew exactly how I wanted it to look. And I didn't want anyone to interrupt that process because I could physically see the book in my head. So literally the book happened in 3 months. So in 3 months in high wedding season, we did these editorial shoots, where I was very strategic, whether I was in the city, because I had a wedding, if I was in New York City, because I had a wedding there, I had meetings. That way I was able to do both at one time, especially even here in Atlanta. Maybe it was after a bridal show, after a wedding. So we were able to kind of double back without it being too heavy on us. But from there, I kind of reached out to my graphic designer, who was already my in-house graphic designer, Irene from Magnolia House. I have to shout her out because I said, hey, this is what I want to do. And here are some books that kind of inspire me. And she said, girl, we're going to do 10 times better than that. And she meant it. And we did. And then kind of the book is more picture heavy than text heavy. So I did get some help with the text, kind of just saying like, this is what I was thinking. This is my vibe, and just had someone polish it up there. And then it went to finding a printer. I did my research of finding pricing here in the States as well as overseas. Of course, here in the States is 3 times more than overseas. And when you start looking back to even books that are traditionally published, you realize that they are published overseas. So you realize you weren't taking too much out of our economy. So that was important to me. But definitely just kind of identifying a couple of overseas printers and getting some proofs back. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to make the trip. Only reason why I wasn't able to make the trip is by the time I would have been able to make the trip, I wouldn't have made deadline. So it was important to me to get the book out on Valentine's Day. But really just kind of picked a printer that spoke really well, I was able to connect with, that checked in with me often and was willing to answer any little question that I had, because I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. And then just kind of going double backing, I use Trello a lot internally that my business manager put me onto. And I said, okay, I'm going to open up a Trello board and literally write out create a card for all the different aspects of printing. So, there's printing, there's binding, there's paperweight, just kind of finding every article that I could and just start jotting it down so I can see it kind of laid out in front of me in order to know what decisions I needed to make.
And how long did that process? I mean, you did it in 3 months. So really, it seems like you were making those like paperweight, cover, all that binding. It seems like you made those decisions quickly.
Yeah, all in the same time. So the shooting took 3 months. I would say it took us maybe about another month to lay it out, make all the decisions. So everything was kind of happening simultaneously with me talking to the printer, shooting, laying out content as we received it.
And did you buy like a bulk amount from your printer and you're responsible for moving that product, or tell me about that? That's kind
Absolutely.
of logistical.
Yeah, absolutely. So I did buy I bought 1,000 copies.
Cool.
So, and I literally, when I thought about the number, I thought about the different outlets to sell. I thought about, if I'm going to do bridal shows or, just from speaking gigs and things like that. So, when you come up with that quantity, you do have to understand that a certain amount are either for press or your vendors, so I dedicated to say, look, 100 of those, I needed to go out to certain areas or certain things. So I knew that no matter what, I had about 900 to sell. So that's kind of where we're at now.
Okay, excellent.
And they're all in my garage.
Yeah, I was like, where are you putting these?
They're all in my garage, and to things that you don't think about, but I did think about is who's going to package these things, like who are going to package these books and the orders when they come in. So, I have a 17-year-old son, so I've kind of put him as my shipping department as well as my niece. So when we get the orders in, it's important to me that I get them out immediately because I don't have it on Amazon yet. It will be on Amazon. Just for financial purposes, from a self-publishing aspect, you definitely want to kind of sell as much as you can on your own because places like Amazon take so much of a huge chunk of your profit. So I wanted to make sure that I get it out immediately because I know I buy everything off of Amazon. I think I placed 10 orders on Amazon yesterday. So as a Prime member, you want to get everything in 2 days. So it's important to me that the people that do purchase the book get it as quickly.
Absolutely. Well, and Amazon is like a search engine. You know what I mean? Like you might as well have it on there.
Right, definitely. So we have it listed so that people can get on there, and probably we're in March now. Probably in May, I'll officially list it on there.
Oh, excellent. Okay, and I'll keep an eye on that, and I'll pop that in the show notes as soon as it's available on Amazon as well. Okay, so here's one of my questions. I know we kind of went into this, but I would love to know, and I feel like these maybe have evolved or not, but I know that, putting a woman of color, within the pages and especially on the cover was really important to you. And when you first came up with the idea and kind of like through the 3-month process of from ideation to creation, what were your goals for the book, and kind of what have they evolved to now that you've seen it moving and selling? And can you kind of take me through that if you don't mind?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So my first initial goals were the brides. I wanted brides to see it, feel it, get inspired by it, feel comfortable and know that they were heading in the right direction, be proud of their wedding day. That was my very first initiation. And then I went into wedding professionals. I wanted them to see a body of work that either that they can, find little details that they can incorporate in their event design, or, just show their clients and say, look, if you want this type of wedding, this is kind of the budget breakdown, or here's different color schemes that can inspire you, because that's one thing that the ellyB brand is known for is color. We can do whites, we can do blush, we can do everything, but we have that huge saturation of color when it comes to our clients. So I wanted to give them a body of work to reference to with real couples, again, not just styled shoots, to say, this is kind of what it can look like. Then that third part is wedding professionals to see from editorial shoots to real weddings, what that transition looks like. So it's gone from everyone does this over the top editorial shoot, and then when it comes down to real weddings, because you can obtain those same items, maybe that glassware that you got from Z Gallery times 200, into your real event design, there's a huge disconnect. So this is just show how it can effectively connect. So that's kind of where my entire thought process started, until the reviews started coming in, and I started getting photographers or specialty designers send me videos and clips of their daughters being excited that they received or looked at a book and say, Mom, what is that? They come home with these colorful pages and this beautiful black model on the cover and say, what is that? I want to see it, And I did see one person have scribble all in their book on Instagram, and it made me cry. But, just for them to say, Mom, I'm excited that's me, that's me on the cover. I can see it. So that's where the tear jerking came in. I think I've always thought that when I received that huge shipment of books, that's the moment that I would cry, and that didn't happen. But when I started getting those videos and those testimonials and just the inspiration that it has inspired everyone for either their business or just in general, just using the hashtag of Black Girls Rock and little things like that. So that has touched me the most.
Well, and they can see their wedding day now.
Right. They can see what it looks like. They can see from, from your 4 years old, I was never that 4-year-old that had any idea of weddings. I didn't really go to a lot of weddings, probably never thought that I would get married. And it was because I didn't see a lot of that growing up. So, now that they can see it and say, okay, now, if I had that book when I was younger, I might have had that binder, with different ideas and tearing out dresses and tearing out colors. And, now you just needed to put the fiance into the mix. But it's nice to kind of give them that positive visual, especially in this day and age.
Mm-hmm. I agree. How has publishing Be Inspired affected I mentioned at the top of the show, you're really a prolific speaker and podcast guest. So how are you incorporating it now into your speaking career?
Great question. I've only done one. Well, I did a tour over with Sarah at Intrigue while the book was in the process of being printed. And we kind of touched on it a little bit. I did have a book that I was able to go around with the attendees and they were able to see. And it's all about questions about that. So it's a lot of taking pictures of it and like, oh my God, this is amazing. Because I think it's so easy to feel like any designer that you look at and just say, my gosh, your work is amazing. But until you have a collection, because it literally is a 300-page collection of someone's work, you kind of like, wow. And then it kind of just gives you an idea of, wow, that person put in work.
Yes.
It's not only like, hey, they just showed up and it makes it happen. So I am getting a lot more questions about event design and where my inspiration comes from event design. And it makes me kind of take back and like, where do I get inspired from, and kind of doing some self-reflection there. But going forward, it definitely, I've spoken about it, several things in the past, and, just kind of going over my speaker sheet, anywhere from additional revenue streams to social media, since I have such a huge social media following, to design. So I'm pretty sure we will, even when I'm speaking at Wedding MBA out in October, we'll be talking a little bit more design, and I'm kind of relating it to either how I came up with one of the shoots and what was my concepts behind it. For example, we have a Christian Louboutin shoot, and instead of, the name is nowhere found, but you can look at the pictures and know that it's inspired. So how do you do something, do an event design or photo shoot without being too kitschy with it? I didn't need to put Paris anywhere. I didn't need to put his letters anywhere. Simply from a color scheme and using the studs throughout different elements was able to achieve what we're looking for. So just kind of explaining that thought process and future talks is the plan.
Oh, that's incredible. Have you found people who are like, how can I do this? Are they so, I feel like people are so, when you publish a book, and even I am like, gosh, this is so amazing. It's such an exciting topic. Have you found people are like, I would love to do that someday?
Yeah, definitely. I always get #bucket list. And I think everyone should. I mean, I think no matter what you do and what you're doing, it's your work, it's your collection, and that's your legacy. Mm-hmm. So I think at some point in some time, you should put together a collection, even if it's just for you and your family, or just kind of carving out your niche and your expertise and putting it out there to share with the world is important. So definitely, even with my students, it's kind of figuring out their business, where they want to go and what their goals are, and then coming up with unique topics. So, it's funny, as much as we would say like the print industry is dead, it's not dead when it comes to books, just like it's not dead when it comes to podcasts. Podcast has been around forever. And now everyone's like, what podcast can I listen to?
Exactly.
Like, let's get on the podcast train, So we're going to have an influx of a whole bunch of podcasts. But again, it's figuring out what you want to bring and what you want to be memorized for. So I highly encourage everyone to go through the process. As much as self-publishing seems so daunting, it really, really wasn't, So as long as you kind of have someone to just say, hey, what are the steps? I had someone reach out to me yesterday, and she said her daughter, she wants to put out a children's book with her daughter. And I don't remember the topic specifically, but she said she had no idea what the steps were. And it literally took me 2 seconds to say, these are the steps, So for example, it's coming up with what you want, finding your graphic designer and your copywriter or editor. Then, finding out where you're going to print it for her. I suggested going to CreateSpace. It's more of could be paperback or hardback, but it's a children's book. So I won't necessarily say to go ahead and make that large investment of going overseas, because you do have a minimum quantity that's required, and then she confused thinking that pre-sales happen before you actually place the order number of books that happens, when it's the exact opposite. So that pre-sale is just saying, hey, I'm coming, get the hype going. I would love for you to possibly get it at this discounted rate, but that order has already been placed, So just kind of just having someone just hold your hand, even just to give you that one little bit of advice so you know the right direction you're going into, doesn't hurt at all.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. I wonder, we mentioned earlier, you have the venue, you are designing, you're speaking, you're just doing so many things. And mentoring now, and now it sounds like, helping people publish books, at least giving them that piece of your time. I'm really curious how you kind of just balance all of your projects and your business and how you split up your time and how you know what's the right thing to work on.
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm a huge component that your mother brand always has to come first.
Okay.
So for me, my mother brand is planning. No matter what, when my clients need me, everything else has to drop. Because I don't want them for any second to feel, because I'm on a book tour or I'm speaking, that their wedding is less important to me. So that's constantly reaching out to them, constantly checking in, making sure that everything is okay, knowing that if I have a wedding that weekend, that I can't fly and go too far because that person might want to need me a little bit more than normal. Mm-hmm. Luckily for our clients, because they get so much access to us throughout the planning process, the week of their wedding, they should not be talking about or dealing with anything besides family. And that much I can't help them with. So that, the wedding planning is already done. There's no last minute details. And then secondly is getting a good team, without my business manager and graphic designer and different VAs that I have covering certain things. So for example, because I have so much going on, my inquiries always used to fall to the wayside for me. So I hired a virtual assistant that handles nothing but inquiries. That's all she focuses on, whether it's phone, email. She has access to my schedule. She knows the days that I want to have my meetings. We've been working together for the last 6-7 months. It's been wonderful. So that has helped my business tremendously, because there's an actual person that's touching these inquiries as they're coming in and helping them schedule, and not waiting for me to get back to them 4 or 5 days later. So that's been important. Having someone like my business manager on the back end saying, okay, well, this we're going to focus on this project, or this is your to-do list for this project and that project, mm-hmm. and just making sure that we hit deadlines has been instrumental. And having that graphic designer that knows my brand, she knows all of my brands. So I make sure that the branding is pretty consistent, so it's maybe different colors or different feels, but it's always kind of that bold statement that matches my personality no matter what my business is. So kind of just having someone that I don't have to stop every single time to explain what I'm looking for is it has been important. And then I get different either project managers, or not project managers because that's my business manager, but I might have project related help. So Kelly has been helping me specifically when it comes down to the book and making sure that the tours are happening right that way, or dealing with media and helping me get on podcasts and stuff like that. So I think when you do have so many projects going on, like, we need to be an expert in our fields. We need to hire people that are experts in the separate projects so that everything can happen effectively.
Oh, excellent. I love that. So hiring experts in their specific niche. Brilliant. So, I can't believe, I feel like I could talk to you forever. I cannot believe our 30 minutes is almost up. I'm like, wait.
No, we got so much more to go.
I know.
Oh, we can always do a part 2.
I was just thinking part 2 is coming. I wonder, what's your hope for the legacy of Be Inspired? And maybe a bigger question is, you really have infused your personality and your kind of your personalhood into your businesses, the B Loft, ellyB events, Be Inspired. What's your hope for your legacy for those things, and specifically for the book?
Yeah, honestly, my legacy and my hope is that everyone just be. And really meaning, when I say be who you are, be who you want to be whatever your heart desires, you can be that person. Even with the B Academy, you can be your own style. You don't have to be an ellyB. You don't have to be a Mindy Weiss. There is a area for you, and it's more about you creating that path and setting that tone, and not backing down, and understanding that once you put in that hard work, it'll pay off. So no matter, and same thing with the book. I want you to look at it and be inspired to be whoever you've seen that book or your creative dream, and know that it's possible because you've seen it in so many different facets. Same thing with my brides. I want them to, I always tell them when they walk in, their event design, normally doesn't happen right away because I want to infuse their personality. I want to do things that has never been done in the industry. I want them to be happy the day of the wedding day and know that it was personalized and not a cookie cutter wedding. So great question. I've never been asked that before, but just off the cuff, I would just tell you, I want everyone to just be who they are and be excited for that and be proud about it.
I absolutely love that.
I'm stealing that one. I'm writing it down when we hang up.
Yeah, good. I'm so glad. Well, we're both writing things down because I'm like, yes to these things. Well, tell me, okay, so we've covered so much. Definitely a part 2 is happening. I would love to know, you have so many things going on. This is really just logistical because I'm obsessed with this. Like, I think you mentioned Trello and you have a business manager and all of that, but what are you using to manage your business and your projects and your life?
Absolutely. Thank goodness for Amanda, my business manager. So we use Trello internally, and we also use Slack, who has for the last 6 months or 8 months, I don't know how long it's been, has completely changed our business. Okay. We do have a different project for each different groups in Slack for communication. My graphic designer uses Asana, so we kind of all hit all the different areas for sure. I have not gotten a good scheduling tool yet. I don't feel like I need it right now because my virtual assistant has that on lock. Everyone has access to my calendar, so we don't really have too much of bumping heads or anything like that. Mm-hmm. I live and die by my phone. It never leaves my hand. So if it's not on my calendar, it doesn't happen. So, that's kind of been the rule through my business. I get up that day before, see where I need to be the next day, and I manage it that way. But those I use Basecamp for my clients. So all my clients use Basecamp. I use Tave for my CRM. So all of our clients kind of inquire through there. All of Danielle, who's my client concierge, all her communication is documented in there. So God forbid something happens to her, I don't have to play this game of catch up. Mm-hmm. I don't even honestly have to access her emails because she's already have forwarded a copy there. Tave helps make sure that we don't have any double bookings, making sure that clients are able to receive our messages when we want them to receive it. So it's been those tools have been great for us.
Awesome. Okay. And so in Basecamp, you said you use that with your clients. Does that mean they are actively using it as well? Do they send you messages in there?
They do. Absolutely.
Okay, cool.
It's definitely for us with our clients. We don't force any virtual office on them because I do feel at some point that is why they hired a wedding planner. Mm-hmm. They didn't hire me to access something that they could have created on their own. However, when we're doing check-in meetings, whether that's via phone or in person, I'm literally checking off things as that they've completed one by one so that I can tell them what's next on our list of things to be completed. So in all facets of my business, it's very important for me to do things in smaller chunks. Mm-hmm. I feel like when you go ahead and you give a master list of things to do, which we have 97 things to do on a to-do list as a bride, they open that, they immediately run because they're like, oh my God, who is going to get rid of this? I have get this stuff done. I have 10 meetings in the next hour. Right. I don't want to be worried about wedding planning. So it's nicer for us to say, okay, we've done these 5 things. We're in great shape. Let's focus on these next 3. These are the next three things we need to complete by the end of the month. So just kind of handling things in smaller chunks.
Oh, brilliant. And then they avoid that decision paradox. They're like, okay, nothing then because there's 600 things here.
Exactly. And then you're
Smart.
able to also manage them and say, okay, it's holiday time. Yes, mm-hmm. I know you're coming in town to visit your family, but we have families as well as being in an industry. So I love to give them that month off. I love to say, you've done so much work. Really, I'm giving myself a month off. No, any brides that's listening. But, we've planned accordingly so that they are able to kind of just relax and take it all in. And don't forget what's important. I always tell them, their planning, it's fun. It's amazing. It costs so much money. It's a rush, but don't forget the premise behind it all. And it's, spending time with your loved one and family.
Absolutely. Oh, I love that. So Eliana, as we wrap up here, I would love if you would mind sharing what's on the horizon for you this year in 2017. What are you really excited about?
Oh gosh, I wish I could tell you so much, but my CFO told me I can't do anything.
CFO.
She's bad. I mean, I already have an idea for book 2 and 3. You know, I will tell you, destinations will be one, children will be the other. We do have a pretty striving segment of our EB Kids, which is kind of our kids division where we do, you know, the birthday parties and the baby showers and stuff like that.
Oh my
I would
gosh.
love to see that kind of materialize in a collection type of way. So we're definitely, I don't know the time frame. It definitely won't happen in 2007, but we'll be actively thinking and producing that. I would love to start a podcast. I think that there's so much stuff that needs to be like just thrown out there. I always said it'll be a mix of kind of interviews and me just kind of jumping on and kind of airing some dirty laundry and then just giving what the industry wants. So it's kind of a little shock value there. I think that's a whole beast. And I'm the type of person, if I do any type of project, I want it to be done well. Mm-hmm. So I would have to kind of see what's the, like, how do you Skype it? How do you, then hiring a team to go ahead and edit it? Because I'm sure that's a whole different process. So that will definitely take a little bit of time because I just want it done right. What else? And I think that's it. My CFO told me that I do so much that she would love to just see me enjoy, the reaction, to be inspired. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just trying to push the envelope in wedding design and with my clients and not forgetting why I'm here. And they're my first and foremost. I always said, even though I was getting into group coaching and doing mentoring and doing the book, I would always be that planner that would not, I'm not doing it for the money. I'm doing it to better the industry, not to transition out of planning, so my clients still come first. So kind of just seeing a little bit more of how I can push the envelopes with my clients, enjoying being inspired, and of course, watching my students grow because, we've only, today marks month 3, and I've seen either business name changes and direction changes, and just watching them put in the work and just truly understand the industry because, it's rare that they get that. It's everyone that wants to give you kind of the textbook versions. No one kind of wants to give you the information in order for you to propel. And it doesn't hurt by propelling your industry. It can only make you better as who you are and push you up the ladder if you help everyone else. So
that's an incredible attitude. I cannot think of a better way to end this show. That's wonderful. Eliana, thank you so much for being here. It's truly my pleasure and honor to have you here.
And thank you so much for having me, Kinsey.
You are quite welcome. Talk soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to She Creates Business. Please take a minute and head to iTunes to leave an honest review so we can help more wedding pros find the show.